All right, what's going on, everybody? Good morning. Um, as most people know, they hear the old saying about boxing that boxing is 90% mental and 10% physical. I've never subscribed to that theory. I always thought that skills paid the bills. Doesn't matter how strong you are mentally, if you don't have the skills to back it up, then just because you believe in yourself, uh, you are who you are. If you're not genetically gifted, you don't have the ability to do something, then your will and your determination can only take you so far. But here's the thing, here's the flip side to that. You could have all the ability in the world, right? You could be physically strong, right? You could have all these attributes, all these gifts. But if you show weakness mentally, then all your physical gifts and strengths and everything you have working for you could actually go against you, right? It could undermine all of your abilities, all of your gifts, all of your skills if you have some mental flaws, if you have some chinks in the armor, so to speak, psychologically, right? When we all know, we listen to these fighters talk, being interviewed, they have very, very big egos, right? And they have very fragile egos, right? Anytime they're criticized, whether it's constructive criticism or not, if it's just opinion, a lot of these fighters, they get very upset. And I've mentioned several times that this is why I could never do this full time, because once you say something or you ask a question that a fighter doesn't like or somebody in the business doesn't like, then you're gonna get blackballed. You're gonna get punished for it. There's gonna be hell to pay, right? There's gonna be hell to pay. So regardless of how you want to look at this situation with the Chris Colbert interview that Nestor Gibbs did a couple of days ago, and everyone knows that it's been taken down because people have complained from the Wilder, people who are affiliated with Wilder complained, and because of the complaints, right, and the requests from the people affiliated with Wilder, the video was taken down from Fight Hype, right? And obviously, when you see a website like Fight Hype and even Nestor Gibbs himself, they do this full time. This is their source of income, right? So, in a sense, they're kind of at the mercy of the powers that be, right? And I know it's been said by Barbershop Conversations that it wasn't anyone affiliated with, it wasn't like Wilder's team or Wilder himself that were the ones that wanted this video taken down. I had a conversation with Ness via text, and out of respect for Ness, I'm not going to get into the specifics of that conversation. I would never do that to Ness because what we said is between him and I. But let's just say what Ness told me was very, very interesting and sounded very, very plausible. Okay? Because Ness wasn't just contacted by one person or two people. He was contacted by a numerous amount of people. And like I said, after that conversation that I had with Ness, let's just say that this was not basically a PB, just solely a PBC thing. There were a lot of moving parts going on behind the scenes here. And per our conversation, let's just say Ness was not talked to in a cordial way when these people reached out and contacted him. Okay. And I'm just going to leave it at that. So, what Barbershop Conversations said in his video, I think it was yesterday, or I think it was yesterday, after talking with Ness via text, I think Barbershop Conversations, I'm not even going to say I know Barbershop Conversations is wrong, because he's going to tell one side and Ness is going to tell you the correct side. because Ness was actually the person that was contacted. Barbershop Conversations is getting information secondhand by people who are going to put a positive spin on it, right? They're going to put a positive spin on it. Okay. So Ness has no reason to lie about this, really doesn't, because he was the one that had his video taken down. So obviously there was an issue with his video or it wouldn't have been taken down, right? According to them. Something on that video, obviously, they didn't like. But you have to ask yourself this. If every time Wilder is being criticized or somebody doesn't think Wilder won a fight, case in point, Paulie Malignaggi. According to Paulie Malignaggi, and again, I don't know how true this is, but he was saying that Wilder wanted to have him fired from Showtime, right? And you could just tell that Wilder wasn't happy. He was very insulting. He was very insulting of Paulie Malignaggi's take on the fight. Paulie Malignaggi scored it for Tyson Fury. He didn't say anything insulting. He just thought that Wilder lost the fight. And automatically Wilder's just attacking him, right? Just attacking him. Criticized the whole Showtime team because they basically thought that Fury won the fight too. So you can't have an opinion. You can't say anything that is non-positive about Deontay Wilder, or you're going to be attacked. Jamal Charlo both said things in regards to the Wilder situation in which they believe that Fury didn't cheat. Then Wilder says, "Oh, Jamal Charlo deserves to be slapped for that." Right? He needs to be slapped, or he needs a slap, whatever, right? So there's a pattern of behavior here. So if someone doesn't say positive things about Deontay Wilder for whatever reason, he gets upset, right? To me, that's a flaw. Like, he lets people get under his skin too easily. Little things like that bother him, right? You have to question how mentally prepared he is for this fight. If when people tell him things he doesn't want to hear, how he gets that upset. He gets so disrupted in his mind. Like, he gets so frustrated and angry and just lashes out at these people. If something like Paulie Malignaggi saying, "Well, I think Fury won the fight," could get under Wilder's skin that bad. If something like what Jamal Charlo said, "Well, I don't think that Fury cheated. I think that he won the fight fair and square." If all those things bothered Deontay Wilder so badly, right? And if he had to put headphones on during the press conference because he didn't want to listen to Fury talk trash to him, right? He didn't want to engage in a war of words, battle of wits with Fury at that press conference, right? So he shielded himself, right? He shielded himself from the verbal onslaught he was about to get at that press conference. So if all these things bother him so badly, so much, if he gives all these people so much power, if their words have so much power over him, their opinions have so much power over him, then you have to question what is his state of mind going into this third fight with Fury, right? What is his state of mind? If these words hurt him so badly and bother him so badly, then what are Tyson Fury's punches going to do once they start landing, right? If he could get taken out of his game so easily and get frustrated, right, and want videos taken down that are not complimentary towards him, right? And Nestor Gibbs can't control what Chris Colbert's going to say during an interview. Those were Chris Colbert's words. It's not like Nestor Gibbs told Chris Colbert what to say. He asked him questions. He wanted his opinion on Fury versus Wilder, and Chris Colbert gave his opinion. Now, did Chris Colbert call Wilder names? Yeah. Did he kind of insult them? Yeah. But fighters talk shit about fighters all the time, right? So what are we going to do every time a fighter talks shit about another fighter? We're just gonna silence him. We're going to censor him. And there's been issues with people attacking Chris Colbert because he felt that, Fury won the fight fair and square as well. And he thought that Fury was going to win the third fight. So he was attacked. So he basically lashed him back out at the people who were attacking him. So Wilder continues to attack these people who don't tell him the things he wants to hear, right? So you have to ask yourself, how's this training camp going with Malik Scott? Malik Scott has never trained a fighter in his life, a professional fighter in his life. He's never, ever went into camp with a professional fighter and prepared a professional fighter to engage in a professional boxing match. This is his first time ever training a pro fighter. And let alone not only his first time training a professional fighter, but this is going to be the biggest stage that he could possibly be in, right? He's going to be training a former heavyweight champion of the world in a fight in which he's going to try to regain his title. So he has no experience even training a fighter who's not on the level of Deontay Wilder. So he's that would basically be like hiring a head coach and throwing him right into a Super Bowl game and having him coach a team that's playing in the Super Bowl with no experience, right? That's what's going on right now. And all you could hear is Malik Scott saying all the things to Deontay Wilder that he wants to hear, no matter what Deontay Wilder's doing in that training footage. Grow. There you go, champ. There you go, champ. Like really, really, really stroking Deontay Wilder's ego. Really going out of his way to pump this guy up, gas this guy up. He's doing basic drills on the pads, and he's just constantly gassing him up, over-exaggerating how Wilder throws a right hand and hits the pad, and he's going boom like that. There you go, champ. Great. Like, again, these aren't the things that Deontay Wilder needs going into this third fight with Fury, right? He can't be told all the things that he wants to hear. He needs to be told other things that he may not want to hear. He needs to hear this constructive criticism. He needs to take this constructive criticism, right, and use it for motivation, right? Not just say, oh, these guys are hating on me. These guys are just throwing shade my way. The white privilege, this racism, that. It goes deeper than this, Deontay Wilder, right? You need to formulate a game plan to how to deal with this guy when he gets inside on you and starts to lay that 270 pounds on you again and try to maul you on the inside again and bully you and shorten up those shots on the inside again. You need to figure a way. You're not supposed to be on the pads, and Malik Scott's not supposed to be giving you all the space in the world that you like so you can just throw those long, straight shots and work on the things that you enjoy doing, already working on the things that you're good at. You need to be working on the things that you're not so good at, right? Instead of worrying about what Chris Colbert's saying in an interview with Nestor Gibbs, right? You need to worry about the fight. You need to worry about your preparation. That's what you need to worry about. And it doesn't seem like you're doing that because you're letting all these other outside factors distract you. When you listen to the interview with Barbershop Conversations, all he did was call out the people, right, who said things that he didn't like. Talking shit about the Charlos, talking shit about Paulie Malignaggi, talking shit about all the people who did not think he won the first fight and did not think that Fury cheated in the second fight, right? So he wants to control the narrative. He wants to control everybody's opinions. As Nestor Gibbs said, basically, if you're not saying what Deontay Wilder wants you to say, then automatically you shouldn't be talking. You can only say positive things according to Wilder and his fans, right? So the boxing media, a big portion of the boxing media has just turned into PR people. They're not journalists anymore. They're PR people. And that's what these entities like PBC want, right? They want to be able to threaten these guys and control these guys on what they can say right? On what they can say. And if they don't say what they want them to say, if they don't fall in line with these guys, then guess what? No more access. But shout out to Nesta Gibbs, man, because he does his podcast every single day, right? He gets a lot of views. He's making money off his podcast. Obviously he would still want to cover the events, but if they tell him he can't go to the events anymore, then guess what? He'll just go to the gyms. Trust me, people know the history between Ness and myself, right? We've had our ups and downs throughout the time I've known him and throughout the time I've done the show with him, right? But one thing I can always say, whether you love or you hate Nesta Gibbs, you can never knock this guy's hustle. I mean, he's never going to quit. He'll find a way. He'll drive 5 hours to a gym and 5 hours back to get an interview if he really wants it. A lot of these other motherfuckers will not do that. They're staying home. They're sending other people out there. Ness is in the field all the time, bro. He's in the field, right? He's going to find a way. He'll find a way to get the message out there, right? If YouTube shut him down, guess what? Ness will go on Vimeo. He'll fucking put his videos on fucking Patreon. He'll find a way to get out there. That's just how Ness is. You're not gonna make the kid quit. Shit like this makes Ness fight even harder. I give him credit, man. I always respected the guy, whether we were on good terms or not good terms. And it was always business. It was never personal with me, and I don't think it was ever personal with Ness. I don't think Ness and I ever really had a genuine dislike for each other personally, but it was business, and we both grew past it. We're both grown men now, we're older, we've matured, and we've kind of learned that it's not always about the ego, right? You got to look at the bigger picture. And Ness looked at the bigger picture, and I look at the bigger picture, right? Does neither of us good to have beef with each other. It just doesn't do either one of us any good. Now, obviously, Ness is going to do what he's going to do anyways. I mean, he's continuing to grow. He's continuing to get gain an audience, right? So Ness is in a different situation than a lot of these other guys, because a lot of these other guys, they don't actually have a podcast like Ness has daily. They don't have the callers. They don't have the support that Ness has daily, right? So they require the access more than Ness does. Obviously, Ness wants the access. It benefits him as well. But like I said, there's other ways Ness can get things done, and he's willing to do those things, right? So during the pandemic or whatever, when all these other people were crying that they couldn't get interviews, they couldn't, they didn't have the ability to get these interviews with fighters and get access and stuff like that, and they were crying that smaller channels were getting the access, whatever. Ness was steady doing his podcast. He was steady doing his podcast, steady getting callers. These other guys couldn't do that. So this is just a little bump in the road for Ness that is really not going to affect him one way or the other, because it's just on to the next one. But the fact that he's getting the heat for something that the fighter he was interviewing said, the fact that they're giving him the heat for that, right? So he's supposed to be responsible for what that person said. And it's not like Chris Colbert really said anything that was defamatory. He gave his opinion. Now, did he say it in probably a more rougher way than someone else would have said it? Yeah, I mean, he was a little bit raw about it in his delivery. Yeah, but once again, censorship is not something that anyone should want, man. And we already saw the other situation a couple months ago with the Billy Joe Saunders thing. Mark Tibbs gave his take on the Billy Joe Saunders Canelo Alvarez fight. Gave his take on his decision to stop the fight or whatever. And I guess he said something that MTK Global or other people in the camp didn't like, and those videos got taken down. So once again, we're seeing a pattern of videos getting taken down from these management companies and these promotional companies are putting weight on these interviewers and these YouTube channels and these media members, and they're basically telling them, "Hey, we'll pull the sponsorship money back from you if you don't do what we want you to do. You know, you won't get access, you won't get your credentials, you won't be able to go to fights. We'll virtually shut you down." Right? Think about that, right? It's almost like a pay for play type scheme going on right now in the sport of boxing. It's a pay for play type scheme going on in the sport of boxing. That's what we have right now, man. That's what we have right now. So, like I said, the takeaway from this whole thing is, man, if Wilder if his ego is so fragile that if someone just says that they don't think Fury cheated, or they think Fury won the first fight and they think Fury won the second fight legitimately, right? And if they think that Fury's going to win the third fight, if all those things being said by other fighters bother Wilder so much, if his ego is that fragile, right? You have to question his mental stability going into this third fight. Because I thought, full disclosure, I do think Wilder was injured. I do think his left bicep tendon was injured going into the second fight with Fury. I do think he looked like he was a bit under the weather, whether it could have been coronavirus, whether it could have been a flu. I think he was sick. I don't think he was himself. And then the argument could be, well, no fighter's 100% going into the fight. Yeah, okay. But he was significantly less than 100%. To me, he looked more along the lines of possibly being 60, 65%, somewhere along the lines of that. And I originally said that we'll see a better version of Wilder, and this fight will probably go the distance. Even with that being said, I still think Fury will win the fight, but I think it would be more competitive. I think it would be a better performance from Wilder. But now, just listening to the things he's saying and the behavior and the whole press conference situation, and now him lashing out at all these fighters who say anything that he doesn't like, or it's not 100% supportive of him or complimentary of him, all these things bothering him like this, I have to say, man, that I don't think I think there's some issues going on mentally with Wilder. Like I don't think that he's 100% stable psychologically going into this fight. Like, if someone's opinion could bother you that badly, right? Instead of just saying, well, like when Andre Ward used to get criticized, he would always say, well, everyone's got a right to their own opinion, right? I'm just here to prove those guys wrong, right? But to let these guys get under your skin that much, have their words have so much power over you, and then you're gonna have like all these people contact Nestor Gibbs, right, and attack Nestor Gibbs when all he did was ask questions. If all these things can, like, if Nestor Gibbs, just by conducting a simple interview, can dismantle Wilder psychologically, if Nestor Gibbs, by conducting that interview, was able to dismantle Wilder mentally and disrupt his confidence level or whatever, just to the point of upsetting and getting under his skin and rattling him mentally. If Nestor Gibbs, who's just a guy doing a job interviewing fighters and he's an analyst, he's a correspondent. If someone like Nestor Gibbs can bother you that much, what the fuck is Tyson Fury going to do to you on July 24th? Right? You're giving Nestor Gibbs that much power over you just by conducting a simple interview. If that can upset you and rattle you and disrupt you, right? And can cause you to lash out like this, right? You don't hear Fury lashing out at all these Wilder fans, right? He's not responding or going at these Wilder fans. He's not telling people to take video. Has Fury sent his people out and asked the and had them tell the LDBC to take all their videos down, calling him a cheater? Right? If Fury wanted to, he could file a defamation suit against all these people. They're accusing him of basically assault and battery with a deadly weapon. They're considering him, they're accusing him of hitting Wilder with egg weights, right? You don't see Fury putting cease and desist out there on these channels, right? Take this shit down or whatever, right? You don't see Fury doing that. You don't see Fury doing that, right? So you got to ask yourself, why is one side doing it and the other side is not? Because Fury's he's focused on the fight. So going back to what I said about this fight being more competitive, I was thinking this fight could be more competitive, and I'm giving Wilder the benefit of the doubt, right? I changed my mind on that now. I think Fury's going to destroy him. With all due respect, I like Wilder, man, because I still remember the fighter who came up, turned pro late at 20 years old, the guy that had to go to work every day, driving the Coca-Cola trucks, working at the fast food restaurants, right? Doing it all for his daughter. I still remember that guy, and I can't erase that guy from the memory banks, right? So I'm always going to try and give and think of that guy, because that guy is still there. I want to kind of say to myself, this is all just a media creation that the YouTube created, and he just ran with it. I want to just say he's playing a character right now. This is all just a gimmick, whatever. I want to say that, right? I want to say that, but part of me is like, I'm conflicted. I'm torn. I don't hate any man. I don't even dislike Wilder. I have a great admiration for Wilder, believe it or not. Even though I can constructively criticize the guy, I have an admiration for the guy. I respect the guy. Right? And I don't want to believe that guy is gone. I don't want to believe that guy is gone. Part of me wants to just say, well, this is just a character. This is just an act. This is just a way to make the fight bigger, make him more popular. He's just playing the heel, whatever. But it's still not a good look. It shows weakness. Because you don't like the way the game is being played. So what do? You take the ball and you go home. And now nobody can play with the ball, right? That's what this is. Unless you say good things about me, you can't say anything about me. And unless you put up interviews that only praise me, you can't interview people who are going to criticize me, right? You can't interview people who think I'm going to lose the fight. You can't interview people who don't think Fury cheated, because if you do, I'm going to send the dogs after you. And again, the conversation I had with Nesta Gibbs offline, via text message, right? I'll never say what was said, but what was said really, I couldn't believe, the lengths that they went at Ness. I can't believe the lengths they went at Ness. And I'm just going to leave it at that. Ness is supposed to come on this channel on Tuesday. We're going to have a TBV reunion. Ness, myself, Ringside Robert, and Eric, and maybe Mario Munguia. I don't know, but I know Ness is coming on. And I know Ringside Robert will be back on Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So keep an eye out for that. We're going to be tweeting that out, and we're going to be advertising that. So make sure you guys spread the word, because Ness is going to come back on here. He's going to come back on here on Tuesday, and I really appreciate that he is going to come back on here, man. So, and I'm sure we'll talk about this more. But yeah, we had a short, brief conversation this morning. We were texting a little bit back and forth, and what he told me, I was like, wow, man, they really, I was saying to myself, they really looked at you as that much of a threat that they had to come at you like that. That they had to come at you like that. So, and everything Barbershop Conversation said, that was that wasn't the truth, bro. That wasn't the truth. What Tay said wasn't the truth either, man. And I was sent one of Tay Jones's messages that he sent to another YouTube channel. And I could talk about that because that was already put out there. True School Sports, right? This is the evidence, man. Behavior is proof, as we always say on this channel, right? Circumstantial evidence means something, right? It means something. And shout out to Fred for one thing. Fred does not think the video should have been taken down. So we got to give him credit for at least admitting that. Fred was saying he's not for censorship. So we gotta admit, we got to give him credit for that. We got to admit that he was right in that regard. So let's take a look at this text message that was sent to True School Sports, because this is already out there. So this is a message, because True School Sports, believe this was last year in August. He did a video with Joey Scott, who is Deontay Wilder's strength and conditioning coach. And this is the message that Tay Jones said to True School Sports, right? This is the message that said, hey, we are requesting that you do not post that video of my brother, Joey Scott, strength and conditioning coach of the brother Deontay Wilder. We also know that you're not a fan of Deontay as well. We've seen your history of videos, and we are requesting that you do not post those video. You do not post those video. Thanks in kind regards. Right? Now, I could tell you right now, according to Ness, he was contacted by, I'm not going to tell you who he was contacted by, but he was contacted by more than one group and more than one person. And according to him, they weren't as cordial to him. And I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm not going to get into anything because he's already talked about it on his show this morning. So when he comes on Tuesday, we'll see what he wants to say. Thank you so much, Donkey Kong. I appreciate that, bro. So behavior is proof, man. So if that text message is being put out there, right? If that's being put out there, right, you can read it right here. It's right there. You can read it. Y'all can read it right there. This was sent to me. I was told that I could use it. Not a problem. This was put out on H Money's video yesterday because he had True School Sports on his channel yesterday. And this is from Tay. This is from Tay Jones. Right there. One of Deontay Wilder's buddies. You can see it right there. So and then Tay Jones was on Barbershop Conversations, and he was sitting there saying that Deontay Wilder did not know about the video, blah, blah, blah. Again, I'm just going to say that's bullshit. That's all bullshit. That's all bullshit. You're not going to sit there and, I have proof that that's bullshit, but out of respect for Ness, I'm not going to say none. So let it go. I'm going to let it go. Because Ness got the receipts. Ness got the receipts. Just like I showed you receipts from another situation, Ness got receipts too. Barbershop Conversations don't got receipts. He don't got receipts. He don't got receipts. He's bringing on Tay Jones, who's going to put a positive spin on it. That's Deontay Wilder's close friend, right? That's Deontay Wilder's close friend. So if Tay Jones is telling True School Sports to take his video down, what you think? What you think? Everyone, all those people from Wilder's side, what you think they're telling Ness right now, or what you think they told Ness? All right, I know what they told Ness. Not in so many words what they told Ness, but Ness, basically implied what they told him. He didn't go in depth about it. He didn't tell me word for word what was said, but I put two and two together from our conversation. Let's put it that way. Just put it that way. I'm not insinuating anything. You connect the dots. You connect the dots. That's all. It's really not hard to, but Ness got the receipts. And I'm not, obviously he's not in a position to show those receipts, but it is what it is. It is what it is, man. That's all I could say, man. But this ain't good, bro. Whether you're a Wilder fan or you're not a Wilder fan, whether you're a Fury fan, whatever you are, shout out to Fred for at least saying that he's not down with the censorship. We got to give him credit for that, guys. You got to give him credit for that. Fred has a right to his opinion. Fred has a right to his opinion. Shout out to you, Fight Doctor. Thank you so much for tuning in. Yeah, Fred has a right to his opinion. As much as we want to disagree with it, but we need to keep talking about this. All the channels need to keep talking about this because this isn't good. This isn't good for the sport of boxing. We need to let them know. Obviously, you can't criticize the fact that they took the video down because they had to take it down. When you got guys doing this full time that are heavily vested into this, that have put their blood, sweat, and tears into this, and then with the stroke of an email, right? Couple taps on a keyboard, and this could all get erased for them, right? All their whole life's work, whatever that they've put into this boxing thing, right? Because I know I know all the work. Trust me. I know the time and effort that Ness puts in. I know the time and effort. There's been times that Ness and I, we were working together on the website, whatever. We would brainstorm. We would talk for hours, man. 2-3 o'clock in the morning, we would be brainstorming, man. Blood, that would be a good idea. And at least Fred, I will say one thing about Fred. He lets everyone talk. He don't interrupt people. He don't insult you. He may disagree with you, but I'm thinking of calling into Fred's podcast too, man. I'm thinking of calling into Fred's podcast too. And if you did call in, Blood, your words would carry a lot of weight, man. Your words are very well respected from just about everybody, man. Whether they want to admit it or not, man, your words carry weight. They do. And by you calling into Fred's podcast, man, that would be monumental, man. That would be monumental. That would be a great gesture for you to do, man. If you do that, yeah. The show, Ness is going to come on this Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern time. 7 p.m. Eastern time. Yeah. But Fred was putting out some information that he was being told by Tay Jones or whatever. See, Fred was being fed information and basically being given confirmation bias to things that he wanted to believe. But Fred hasn't heard the other side yet. You know what I'm saying? Fred don't have the receipts. Ness has the receipts. Right? Fred's getting secondhand information. Ness was the guy who was being talked to directly. Who are you going to believe? The guy that was talked to directly, or the guy that was being given secondhand information by, he said, two sources. And what are those? Where were those two sources? Tay Jones and somebody else, right? So it is what it is, man. Nah, Fight Hype is not a puppet. I mean, they've been doing this for a while. What's going on, brother?
Doing well, man. How are you?
I'm good. What you got?
Nah, it's just this news kind of came out of left field, and I'm like hearing about this, and I'm just saying, man, they got time to cancel people, but aren't they supposed to be running like a 24/7 fight camp leading up to the fight? That's what I don't get.
Well, I mean, PBC is being implicated in this, and I'm sure they have an indirect involvement with this, but it's more than just it's more than just PBC. You know what I mean? It goes deeper than just PBC. But at the end of the day, if a camp of a fighter or a fighter himself goes to a promotional company or goes to a boxing business entity, whatever, and they say, hey, you know that dude right here? Deny him access. Obviously, that person's not going to get access. So basically, the future of these boxing journalists and their channels and their platforms are in the hands of these entities out there, whether it be PBC, Top Rank, or Golden Boy. Golden Boy has censored people too, right? Golden Boy sent Gabriel Montoya a cease and desist because he was putting out the information about the Floyd Mayweather's PED tests and stuff. That's when they were working with Floyd back then, right?
Man, it all kind of makes sense now. I actually finally got around to reading Mark Breland's statements on Deontay's training habits and everything.
Yep.
That was really eye-opening. I had no idea it was like that.
Deontay Wilder trains himself, bro. He trains himself. And Mark Breland it just wasn't working out between the two of them because Mark Breland was getting tired of it, bro. Mark Breland was getting tired of it. Look at the training footage. All you're seeing Wilder do is he's playing to his strengths. He's showing you the things that you knew he was good at. We already knew he had a decent jab because he showed it in the first Stavern fight. We already know he has a great right hand because he's been showing that his whole career. We're not seeing Malik Scott get in there and actually simulate Tyson Fury's tactics or behavioral patterns or whatever in the ring. We're not seeing any of that. We're not seeing him try to crowd him. We're not seeing him try to show him how to fight on the inside, show him how to deal with the rugged mauling tactics and stuff like that. He's like friggin' 3 feet away from him, right? Giving him space to throw those punches. Fury's not going to be 3 feet away from him. He's not going to give him space to throw that right hand, right? He's not. So they're just letting him do the things he likes to do. They keep working on the things that he's good at, and they're not trying to improve upon the things that he's not great at. He's never going to be a great inside fighter, but at least show him how to deal with someone on the inside. Show him how to nullify another guy's inside game, right? But they're not showing him that. Go ahead, Hamed. What you got?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. I was just saying, do you think this is good? The fact that, and I said this yesterday, the fact that they keep trying to protect Wilder, not in the ring, but out the ring, because when he got dropped by Carlos Conyers, that footage disappeared. I know some guys who were at that fight. I think Dougie Fisher was among it, and he said he looked really bad for Wilder. And then his brother got knocked out in his first defeat. That got erased from the internet. Now we keep seeing this pattern. What I'm trying to see, are they trying to protect this guy in and out the ring, or is this just something that's the reality of how, the media now operates?
Well, I've been saying all along that all this does is show weakness, because if the words of a journalist or the words of other fighters who aren't going to be fighting you bother you and get under your skin so much, if you can be rattled that much, then what's Fury going to do to you on fight night? Because he's going to be doing a lot worse to you than these guys are. So if these guys could get under your skin, if these guys could rattle you, if Ness just doing a simple interview is going to bother you that badly, then what's going to happen come fight night? Like if you're so worried about all this other stuff, how are you going to be mentally prepared for Tyson Fury on July 24th? How is he going to be ready for that?
Yeah, I agree. But one thing I want to know, why was that interview uploaded on Fight Type and not on the Boxing
Because
Voices?
Ness works with Fight Hype right now, because Ness is trying to get his videos and his interviews out there to a wider audience. Fight Hype has 1 million subscribers. Ness has about 130,000 subscribers. So Ness, a lot of people don't know this, but Ness has been working with Fight Hype. He's been trying to get his videos out there to more people, right? So that's why that video is on Fight Hype. Because if you notice, Ness has been doing videos on Fight Hype. That's not the only one. So I don't know, like a lot of people don't know that, but Ness talked about it, and he's mentioned it that people think I'm crazy, but I'm trying to get my stuff out to as many people as possible.
Yeah. I was trying to just clarify that because I was saying that the same because I remember I think his Ring IQ Julius was telling me that he reached out to him a couple of years ago. He's trying to get his stuff on, so he works with other channels, and I think he used to have guys like Wingy who used to I think work for IFL and the Boxing Voice. I think there's a couple of other guys. So I don't think that's a good look if you're telling people to take down interviews. And Chris Colbert didn't even really say anything that was extreme. He was just giving his opinion. Like, are we not allowed now to have a difference of opinion?
Well,
I think it's not good.
Well, Chris Colbert's been attacked by a lot of these Wilder fans and Wilder himself because of things he said all along. He never thought Fury cheated. He thought Fury won the fight fair and square, and he thinks Fury's going to win the third fight. So that's why he was a little bit edgy in that interview with Ness. He was a little bit more overly critical, like overly insulting a little bit. Like I think he called Wilder. What did he say? Wilder's a punk. He said Deontay Wilder's a punk or something like that. So that was he did take a couple of shots at Wilder, but that was because of Wilder's behavior and Wilder's fans' behavior towards him for having an opinion, right? So these guys are just retaliating, and it's unfortunate that they have to get stoop to the level of the Deontay Wilder fans. But I can only imagine after a while you get aggravated and frustrated, and you can only be politically correct for so long, and then you have to just kind of let loose, I guess.
Yeah, and this is not the first time recently. I don't know if it's Jamal or Jamal Chala, one of them.
Both of them. But Jamal most recently.
Yeah, the one of them said something, and Wilder threatened him, and he even said, I got people waiting to, if Wilder wants to go down that route, but he didn't want to do that." And I think all he said was that he thinks Fury didn't cheat, and Wilder was being a sore loser, and it looks like Wilder and his team are very intimidated. If we're trying to be intimidated, if you remember what they did to Dominic Brazil in the hotel lobby as well, and I just think it gives off a bad vibe.
Well, look what Wilder did to Radio Raheem when Radio Raheem asked him a simple question, how he blew up at Radio Raheem. And then he comes out later and kind of apologizes to Radio Raheem and stuff like that. So, again, I would never question Deontay Wilder's heart or anything. I mean, he's a warrior. He does something that I can only dream of doing. I wouldn't be able to do anything that Deontay Wilder is capable of doing. He gets in there, puts his life on the line. Much respect to him. But what he is showing right now is he's showing a very fragile ego. He's coming off as being very, very sensitive, right? Being very, very sensitive. Because you think about this. You're the former heavyweight champion of the world. You're set for life. You've made millions and millions of dollars. You could walk away from the sport tomorrow and you're set for life, right? why in the fuck does it bother you so much that Nestor Gibbs posted, or not even Nestor Gibbs, but Nestor Gibbs conducted an interview that was posted on YouTube, on Fight Hype? Like, why is that bothering you so much? Why does Nestor Gibbs have that much power over you that he could elicit this type of response out of you? This very negative, disturbing, this upset response from you. How is he able to do that? How?
Man, Joe, it's interesting, isn't it? He just seems like this dude who just needs positive reinforcement like all the time. But if you look at look at Roy Jones Jr., like his dad used to literally beat him with the belt, getting him to train harder and like be perfect. Floyd Mayweather, same. Dad used to slap the shit out of him if any punch was less than perfect. And to the point where I don't know if you remember, there was like a 24/7 a couple of years ago in one of Floyd's last fights where where his dad was back in the picture and they were training, and his dad told him at the end of a grueling session that you had a good day today, today we're looking good, and Floyd just straight up told him, you know what, we can be better, and that just kind of tells you that's the kind of mentality you need to have where you're driven by chasing perfection, and the criticism doesn't bother you. Someone being roughing you up doesn't bother you, because that's what helps you dig deep in the championship rounds. Or, you know, I mean, it just seems dumb. And didn't Floyd made like a really harmless comment, didn't he, about Deontay back in the day about like he just needs to work on some fundamentals or he needs to fix his jab. And that's when like the whole shit started with oh Floyd's just a hater and everything. And I'm like, he's just making a very basic observation. I mean, it's not like, oh, he's a bum. I just said he's got to work on some stuff. And anybody who knows anything about boxing would agree with that.
The word hater is the most overused word right now in the dictionary, because anytime, basically what hater means now is if you say something that is not supportive, 100% favorable, or it's the least bit critical of somebody I like, then you're hating. So basically, when someone calls you a hater, they're basically telling you you can only say good things about the person you're talking about because I like that person. And it bothers me when you say things that aren't good, that are critical. Anything that can be perceived as negative at all towards the person I like, it bothers me, it hurts me, so you can't say it. That's what the word hater means. So once again, when someone is that emotionally vested in another man, that's a red flag to me, bro. I'm a huge Tyson Fury fan, right? But I could constructively criticize the guy. The guy has won the heavyweight title, right? And this is going to be the first time, because he won the heavyweight title back in 2015, right? And he retires immediately. He's never defended the heavyweight title. This is like the first time he's ever going to make a title defense, right? He's never defended the heavyweight title, right? So also people want to call him the lineal champion. How could he be the lineal champion when he walked away and he was under suspension by UCAD, right? Pending an investigation. He got stripped by the IBF. All the things that happened to Fury were because of Fury. It wasn't because the system was against him. It wasn't because UCAD was against him. It wasn't because the sanctioning bodies were against him. He did not do the things that a heavyweight champion needs to do and was supposed to do. So he got stripped of the IBF title. He came up with this excuse about he tested positive for nandrolone because of the boar meat. I didn't believe it. So, you can still like somebody, but not ride with them 100% on everything. Like if you're friends with somebody, right, and you see them doing something wrong, if you don't point it out to them, if you don't say, hey man, I just don't think this is the right thing for you to do right now, you can end up hurting yourself in the long run, whatever. But if you're just going to be afraid that you're going to lose that guy as a friend, so you're just going to let them do whatever they want and just not even have an opinion on it, not even speak your mind about it, right? Then how good of a friend are you? If like all these people are just telling him what they want to hear, how is that making him better as a fighter? How is that making him better as a human being? How is that making him better as a person? You're not helping the guy by just telling the guy what he wants to hear, because you're giving him no incentive to get better or to improve.
Yeah,
You're
that's what I
not.
don't. That's what I don't understand. Why they threw Mark Brilliant under the bus. People could have their difference whether or not he was like getting his instruction too old, but he essentially not only saved maybe his life, but he saved his career to fight another day. Because JDs, those guys, we're not going to stop the fight. Now we don't know if Kenny Bayless, he did say he would have stopped the fight, but we don't know if he would have stopped that fight, say at that time or the round after, and that could have say because all it takes is one shot. If you stop a fight 1 second or 1 minute too late, it could get really tragic or fatal even. So
You know,
that I don't understand. I don't know if is Malik Scott a guy who cares about this guy, or is he just a yes man who's gonna just ride his his whatever you say as a hype man is in the corner.
and I was listening to Barbershop Conversations video this morning, and there was a gentleman on there, and forgive me because I forget his name, and I apologize to the gentleman because I don't know I forgot what his name was, but he was talking to Troy, who Troy called into the show, and he asked Troy, he goes, "Do you know why the LDBC started?" And I knew the answer to the question because in the beginning when 78 was doing videos and Blood was doing videos, 78 and Blood were doing videos together or whatever. It was right around the time where they had, right in the middle of the big Pacquiao versus Mayweather debate. And you had the divide, and a lot of the Pacquiao fans and a lot of anti-Mayweather fans were leaving racial comments on videos that were being put up by the African American uploaders, like particularly 78, Blood, whatever. They were leaving a lot of racist words on the comment section. So 78 said to himself, "You know what? Fuck this environment. Fuck this YouTube boxing community. We don't want to deal with all the racism, whatever, right? So we're going to do our own thing." And that's fine, right? It's cool. I commend them for that, right? But then they kind of went on this whole mission to make every problem, every issue, if they didn't like a fighter, they would always inject race into every topic. So it's almost like you're doing exactly
What you accuse others of.
what you accuse the others of doing, what you were critical of others of doing. So they brought race into something, these people, where it didn't belong. So now you're just doing the same thing from the opposite side of the spectrum, right?
Yeah,
so that's what it turned into. That's what it turned into. So 78 was right. He was 100% right. And he had every right and still has every right to be upset and angry, right? But you need to know when and where to apply it and when to pull it back. You just can't apply it blank all across the board, like put a blank.
Generalize.
Yeah, you can't just generalize. Exactly. Thank you so much for that word. You can't generalize and just make blanket statements that aren't always applicable to every situation. I have no problem with 78, right? I have no problem with the LDBC. But I think they did turn the whole movement into a business. Right? They saw that people were kind of, when you rile people up like that and you get people angry and you create that movement, right? You create headway, right? You can make a statement that way and people will follow you. So they saw how people were just following them and they were riling people up like that. And then to me, I think they kind of turned it into more or less more along the lines of a business, in my opinion. I think they know. I think most of them know deep down inside that Fury really didn't cheat. They know that.
I think I don't think they're the main problem. The main problem is the guys who follow him and who are dumb enough. I'm not just talking about a handful. I'm talking about the thousands and thousands who believe that narrative, and you see them pushing it.
There's a lot of weak-minded people.
Yeah.
In out there in the internet cyberspace, right? Everybody has fake avatars. Everybody talks tough on a keyboard. People come on here. They don't show their face. They don't have their real names, and that's their decision. But those are the guys that tend to bark the most, right? Those are the most weak-minded guys, right? So they need someone to live vicariously through because in their own lives, they probably have antisocial issues, right? They probably can't talk to people in the real world, so they can come on here and not have to be afraid, not have to hide behind anything, right? Well, they can hide behind something where in the real world they can't. So they come on here to hide and be something they're not, right? And they live vicariously through the LDBC, these guys. So they get that instant gratification when they come on here, which is something they can't get in the real world. That's just how it is. That's my whole viewpoint on it, to be honest.
Yeah. The thing I don't like, I think these guys have used all the super chats and stuff like that to a gain. Because I've seen, I won't mention one of the guy who I think has now had a problem with the LDBC and he hasn't been active online for a couple of weeks. Some people maybe know who I'm talking about, but anyway, he even said that I do it to get money from this, and I'm doing it to make some change on the side. And I don't think that's a good look. Because if you're a race hustler and that's something you don't majority of the things you're saying you don't believe deep down, then you're just using people to bring traffic to your website to get money, and I think
Listen,
that's a bad.
if you're going to be out here accusing somebody of attempted murder with a deadly weapon, right? You're going to be accusing somebody of drugging somebody, right? These are serious allegations, right? And I said earlier, Deontay Wilder, his whole team or everyone affiliated with Deontay Wilder, they're out there telling everyone to take negative videos down, criticizing Deontay Wilder. Let me ask you guys this, and I said this earlier. Do you ever see Fury's people go out there telling all these LDBC guys who are accusing him of cheating, accusing him of being a dirty fighter, being a horrible human being, calling him a drug addict, whatever. They're saying all these negative things about him. Fred even, you know what Fred even said in that interview with Deontay Wilder? He's like, I hope you paralyze the guy. Like, I mean, that shit is like, that goes deep, right? But you don't see Tyson Fury telling all these LDBC guys to take their shit down because he don't give a fuck. This is a dude that is strong enough to be able to handle the criticism and say, fuck this. I'm going to go in there and do my business in the ring.
Yeah.
So it's funny. So sorry, Hamed. Give me a
Go
second.
go.
Every time you know something, Joe, I used to think about the stupidity of people in general, and I always used to use Scientology as kind of like the measuring stick to say, okay, here's a movement that just shows humanity in a nutshell, like the stupidity of the masses. But the Wilder conspiracy theory camp, it's starting to get up there in terms of my yardstick for just general stupidity. Anytime I think that there's hope for the human species, all I got to do is remind myself of how the last year and all the rhetoric we've been seeing.
Yeah. So
Some of these guys have gone crazy. Like one of them, I won't mention. He was telling me Fury is gonna get killed in the ring. Like, God forbid if one of them does get serious. Yeah, are these guys gonna like? Are they gonna go back on this statement? Because this shouldn't be that personal to the level. Like, I guess sometimes some fights do get personal between fighters, but you shouldn't be saying stuff like that. And Wilder has already made those statements. So if that something happens to him or he does it to another opponent or in this fight, like those consequences are gonna have ramification. I know in boxing it's legal, but you got to live with stuff like that. And I don't think you should be saying stuff like that.
Well, listen, brother. Sugar Ray Robinson was never the same fighter after he killed that man. And you remember there was like the famous story he dreamt about it and he didn't want to fight, but his management convinced him to take the fight, and he ended up killing the poor dude. And he was never ever the same fighter. He lost sort of part of his edge, his ferocity, because he couldn't deal with it. And it puts into perspective stuff like we used to. I don't know. When I was younger, I thought a lot of stuff that like Manny Pacquiao did was a little bit corny, like the whole praying for his opponents and stuff. But I got to tell you, man, when you look at this kind of stuff, when you look at like Gerald McClellan, I mean, look at how things turned out for him. I mean, what a horrible tragedy. You just don't want. There's this quote that's just perfect. Boxers, like prostitutes, are in the business of ruining their bodies for the pleasure of complete strangers. And it's just this perfect quote, and that's why, as I get older, it puts into perspective that Manny praying for his opponents and being like, I just don't want either of us to get hurt. That shows you people who really are deep in the fight game, who really understand what they're putting themselves towards, and people who, like, I mean, dude, I used to cringe when Wilder would just be like, I want a body on my record. Yeah, like you could live with that. Like anyone in the 140-year history of boxing has been able to live with killing people in the ring. All of those guys are never the same.
You never really know what you could do or how you're going to feel until you're actually in that moment. And I'm sure, and this is just, I mean, obviously this is my opinion, but I'm quite comfortable and sure in saying that if Deontay Wilder ever did take a life in the ring, as you said, I do believe it would bother him and he would feel remorseful for doing it. There's no question in my mind. I don't know any fighter that, like Nigel Benn, was one of the most vicious, spiteful dudes in the sport of boxing. When you looked at that guy, the way he carried himself, he was the consummate bad guy, right? Obviously, probably not a bad guy in real life, but the persona that he put out to the public from a boxing perspective is that he was a ruthless guy, right? He was a mean, ruthless, sadistic guy in the ring. He didn't care. He wanted to inflict pain and punishment on his opponent. But I saw the video of when he went and visited Gerald McClellan after Gerald McClellan was in that state because of the beating that he put on Gerald McClellan in that fight, which was very sad, right? He was in tears.
Yeah,
he was in
2007.
tears. He was in tears after that. Like he went and saw him and he cried like a baby, bro. He was genuinely hurt and devastated, right? This was a man. If you were to look at this man back in the 90s, and then you look at that situation, what was it, back in 2008, you said, Ahmed?
Yeah, 2007, yeah.
2007. You could never think that man would be so compassionate and he would have so much empathy for another man, because he just didn't show you that in the ring. So this is why I don't want to believe that this character that Deontay Wilder is putting out there right now, deep down inside, I just don't think that's him. I just don't think that is him. I don't think that's the real Deontay Wilder. Maybe that's just me not wanting to believe it, but I believe that the real Deontay Wilder is that guy that took up the sport of boxing at 20 years old, who was driving that Coca-Cola truck, who had to take those jobs, working at fast food restaurants. He did it all for his daughter that was suffering from spina bifida, man. This is a guy, when you see him holding his kids, he's a loving father, man. He seems like he's a good partner to his woman. That's the guy I want. The family man. That's the guy who I want to remember. I want to remember that guy.
Yeah, someone made a very good point, and I've met Anthony Joshua, a couple of years ago before the Joseph Parker fight at, I think it was Public Workout, and they said that Joshua was a bad guy who was trying to become good. No, I'm not saying he was a bad guy when he started fighting as a pro or won the Olympic medal, but he came when he was a teenager. He kind of got involved in the wrong crowd. I think he went jail as well, but then he tried becoming good. Whereas Wilder, I thought, was a good guy, but he's gone down the road trying to play the bad guy, and I just don't think that was a good idea. Like, I know he's trying to market himself.
I'm not gonna accept that Wilder's a bad person. I'm not gonna accept it.
He tried acting for the camera, I think.
I'm not gonna accept it. I don't think that Wilder that I seen holding his babies, I
agree. Deep down, I don't think
that family man. I don't think that guy is gone. I just don't think that guy is gone, man.
I don't think it's good though. For the camera, you should. Yeah.
He takes care. He's took care and takes care of every single one of his children. He could have ran out.
Yeah.
A lot of guys would have ran out in his situation. Any man, white, black, Asian, any man would have walked away in that situation, saying to himself, "You know what? I don't have any money, man. I'm just gonna leave, man. Let the mother take care of the situation, right? Sometimes, a young man. Think about it. A young man, 20 years old, right?
Yeah.
Not really mentally strong, developed. So that took some strength out of Deontay Wilder to not run away and to sit there and say, you know what, I'm going to do whatever it takes to take care of my daughter. Instead of just, how many times do men just walk out and leave saying to themselves, well, I don't have the money. I can't do it. She'll figure it out. Let her figure it out. He didn't do that, guys. He didn't do that. So we got to give him credit, man. We got to give him
Well, I
credit,
mean,
man.
there's different layers to people, and I fully respect that. I think for me, Joe, the breaking point was the Breland stuff. I can take a certain level of delusion. You know, some people, you know, losses hurt a lot, and it leads them to react in certain ways. But it got to a point where I'm just like, dude, like you're throwing people under the bus who've been with you for like the best part of 12 to 15 years, been with you when you were at your lowest points, getting ready to, you know, building you up and everything, and that kind of bothered me. But the other aspect over here is, you know, the talk about family. It's a little bit concerning because listen, Joe, you have to think that Wilder is going to tell his team, no matter what, nobody throws in the towel. I don't care how bad I look hurt in there. I don't care how out of it I look. So I'm hoping. I mean, again, I've been very clear since the beginning that Fury is going to stop him, or he's going to just get KO'd. And if it is by stoppage, I'm hoping that the referee keeps a very close eye on things because as as kind of as upsetting as I find, especially the Breland stuff, I don't want anybody to get hurt in the squared circle. We don't want that. But you know, if Wilder is not going to allow his team to save him from himself, I hope that the third man, you know, inside the squared circle, you know, does his job and keeps a close eye on things. That's all. That's what I have to say about that.
I'd love to interview Malik Scott and ask him the question: what would you have done, Malik, if you were in that same situation that Mark Breland was in round 7 of that second fight? What would you have done? Would you have thrown the towel in? And what if that situation arises again where it doesn't look good for Deontay Wilder and he may not be in the condition to defend himself? Um, what are you going to do? What are you prepared to do in that situation? Are you going to let him go out on a shield and possibly risk having permanent damage, or are you going to pull the plug? What are you going to do? I'd
Yeah,
love to.
that's a good question.
I'd
But
love to
that's
hear. I'd love to hear the answer to that question from Malik Scott. If I would be able to present that to him.
that's a good question. The only thing I'm kind of concerned about is about the referee. Is the referee gonna allow Wilder maybe to take too much punishment in this fight, where it could maybe get really ugly and really bad, or is he gonna maybe stop the fight? And some people maybe not happy. Like we're never gonna get a perfect stoppage, but I would like a referee who's in charge, who's more in care of the safety of the fighters rather than this going out on your shield. Because Wilder, if he takes another sustained, prolonged beating, I think he could seriously get hurt. Well, Fury, if he's coming in at 280, 275, or he's saying 300, I don't know if that's true.
He
That's a
won't. He won't.
big,
He
big
won't come
guy.
in at 300.
Yeah,
He's just talking BS, bro.
he's a
He's
big
not coming.
guy, 6'9", whatever. If someone like that is pounding away on you, Wilder's coming off already a bad beating. I know it's whatever it was last year or early last year, but I don't think that'll be a good look. But it'll be interesting to see who the referee is, to see how the whatever how that will play out in the fight.
This fight is like 3 weeks away, guys. Three
I
weeks
can't
away.
wait. Can't wait.
You know. So before we close out here, man, do you think that the third fight is going to end quicker, and you think it's going to be worse for Wilder in this third fight, or do you think it's going to be a more competitive? Do you think we're going to see a better version of Wilder, and it's going to be a much more competitive fight because of it? What do you guys think?
I'll go first. I think this fight ends two ways. Wilder either lands something big early and it takes Fury out. If Fury somehow is a bit over complacent and thinks he could, which is unlikely. I don't think that's the likely thing. Or the other thing, I think Fury is going to give him a really bad beating, and it could end up maybe looking like the Chisora rematch, where maybe not the same because Chisora I do think is a lot more durable than Wilder, but I think Wilder will be really marked up, where he either quits after a lot of bad beating, or someone pulls him out. Either it's corner or the referee stops it. But I think it either goes one way or the other.
I got you. I got you.
I would say that it's probably going to end by stoppage for Fury right around the same point, around round 7 or 8. If anything, it might go around longer.
Yeah.
Again, I believe that when a fighter takes his first loss and he needs to make a fundamental change in his style and his preparation, you need to take time away to get built back up, but you need to test that new regimen, that new style on a few fights before you're ready to get back into deep waters. This is just what I believe, what the history of boxing tells us for similar cases. While financially it's a great decision, like he'll make it. I mean, he's already set for life, Joe, as you mentioned, but he'll make as much money as he's ever made in this fight. But I, if Wilder wanted to continue fighting for a number of more years, I would have gone a different route, and I would have built him back up, give him like 2 or 3 fights to try out a new style, and take a year to train, get built back up. He hasn't done that. He has a literal nobody as his coach. He has a camp full of yes men, and he has a promotional outfit that understands that the only shot that he has is probably to let him get deeper into his own delusions. So, uh, Fury by stoppage in round 7 or 8, similar to last time.
Shout out to my man Ohio Runs Boxing. Thank you so much for the super chat, man. Always a pleasure having you in, tuning in on the chat and the stream. Thank you so much, Ohio Runs Boxing. My whole thing is this. So you're going into the biggest fight of your life, right? You switch trainers, but the guy that you switch trainers for has zero experience training in the professional ranks, and as far as I know, training at all in the amateur ranks. I don't think this guy's ever been a trainer. I know for a fact he's never been a pro trainer. So you're going into the biggest fight of your life with a guy who has zero training experience. You're going into the biggest fight of your life with a guy who seems to just be doing the things you want to do, telling you the things you want to hear. Basically, at the press conference, he said you're a stubborn guy by nature. You basically said you were trying to convince him to talk at the press conference, but it was his decision to not talk at the press conference. So then Fury counters with, "Well, if you can't get him to do what you want here, how are you going to get him to do what you want in training?" "Oh, well, he listens to me in training." I'm skeptical about that. I'm skeptical. I believe at this point in his career, and I think for the last couple of years, Deontay Wilder virtually trained himself. And I don't think it's going to be any different in this camp. I think Deontay Wilder is basically training himself, right? So I cannot see a better outcome. I cannot see a better outcome than I saw in the second fight. And if I do, I'll be greatly surprised. I think I agree with Ayanami. I think that it's going to be a similar stoppage around the same time as it was in the second fight. I just don't think we're going to get a better version of Wilder in this third fight.
How much of a chance do you give Wilder, like percentage or whatever?
Honestly,
Yeah.
I give him about a 25% chance. I'm about 20% chance.
I give
All
him
right,
about
yeah.
a 5%.
5%. Okay, wow. Okay.
The reason I got a bit closer, I think, is maybe about 70-30. Initially I thought 60-40, but I think that's a way too close. Is because of Fury, because I think he's one of those guys. I just don't know what he's gonna do. Sometimes he turn, and for so far it's all worked out. But at the same time, this is heavyweight boxing, and I know this is kind of a broken record with Wilder. All it takes is one punch. We seen when he stepped up, he struggled. At the same time, I just need to kind of see how Fury also looks, because he's a heavy favorite in those fights against Klitschko and Wilder. He was a pretty big underdog. I know some people did pick him. This is kind of the first time where a lot of people are picking him. So that's the only thing. But style wise, I think, yeah, Fury is a clear favorite and should win. Maybe by late stoppage, I'd probably predict.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining me in the chat. Thank you guys for joining me on the stream. And make sure you check out the Ringside Reporter podcast every Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Beeb is out for now. Talk to you all soon. Have a great one. Peace out, everybody.
Take care, brother.